Warmonger Lindsey Graham died on Saturday night, and the NDAs seem to be null and void now that he's dead. And trans actress Jessie James Rose is spilling the tea. So this is our.
When Lindsey Graham's private life suddenly became the center of attention after his passing, no one expected old rumors and new allegations to return so quickly. For years, whispers followed the powerful senator, but after his death, a woman claiming to know a hidden side of him stepped forward with a story that sparked a national debate. From unanswered questions to the complicated legacy he left behind, every revelation opened another mystery. But what really happened? And why are people still talking about it? This is the story. The sudden death of Lindsey Graham. Everything changed when news broke that Senator Lindsey Graham had died suddenly at the age of 71. A moment that sent shockwaves across Washington and throughout the political world. For over 3 decades, Graham had been one of the most recognizable figures in American politics, building a career that placed him at the heart of major national conversations. His journey took him from serving as a military lawyer to becoming a powerful voice in Congress, where he became known for his strong views on national security, foreign policy, and global affairs. Throughout his career, Graham often stood at the center of heated debates, and in his later years, his close alliance with Donald Trump made him one of the most influential figures within the Republican Party. At first, Lindsey Graham's office only described his passing as the result of a brief and sudden illness, leaving many people searching for answers about what had happened. However, early medical findings later revealed.
Remembering Lindsey Graham, the flag at the South Carolina State House, the 71-year-old passed away Saturday night. Senator Graham died from an aortic dissection. That's when there's a tear in the body's main artery.
That the senator died from an aortic dissection, a serious condition caused by a tear in the body's largest artery and linked to cardiovascular disease. His unexpected death brought an abrupt end to a political journey that lasted more than 3 decades, closing the chapter on a figure who had become one of the most familiar and influential voices in American politics. Following his passing, messages of sympathy came from across the political divide. Donald Trump described Graham as someone who was like family, highlighting their close friendship and years of working together. Meanwhile, Joe Biden remembered him as a longtime Senate colleague, acknowledging that while they often disagreed on major issues, they also shared a respect for public service and the institution they both represented. But as the nation began reflecting on Lindsey Graham's long and influential career, another conversation started spreading rapidly across the internet. Away from his political achievements, old rumors, private questions, and long-standing speculation about his personal life returned to the spotlight. For years, these discussions had followed the senator but remained largely unresolved. However, after his passing, some individuals claiming to have personal experiences or knowledge of another side of Graham began coming forward, creating a new wave of debate and curiosity. One woman in particular came forward with allegations of a private relationship with the senator years earlier, claims that sparked renewed discussion and controversy. Her statements immediately raised questions about Graham's personal life, his public image, and the complicated relationship between power, privacy, and public accountability. As people were dealing with the sudden death of Lindsey Graham, a claim about his private life emerged that could not be ignored. But who made the claim? What allegations were made? How authentic were they? And what does this reveal about what can happen after the death of a public figure? Let's find out. The alleged escort who came forward. In the days after Lindsey Graham's unexpected passing, a woman stepped forward with a personal claim that immediately attracted widespread attention. She alleged that she had encountered the senator years earlier and described a private relationship in which she said she received financial support from him before she even knew his identity or his position in American politics. Her story quickly spread across social media, not only because of the details she shared, but because it connected with a much larger conversation that had surrounded Graham for years. For decades, Lindsey Graham's private life had been surrounded by rumors and public speculation, creating a complicated contrast between his carefully built public image and the questions that continued to follow him behind the scenes. Much of the renewed discussion focused on the connection between those rumors and his long political record, especially his positions on LGBTQ-related issues. Critics argued that the allegations raised questions about possible contradictions between his personal life and public actions. However, others warned that personal claims should not be accepted as truth without strong evidence and careful examination. Despite the enormous attention surrounding the woman's statements, many important questions remained unanswered. The claims had not been independently verified, and no official documents, confirmed records, or publicly available evidence had established the details of her story. This uncertainty became a major part of the discussion, as people began questioning not only the allegations themselves, but also the timing of their release. Why were these claims emerging only after Graham's death? And why had those who claimed to know the information remained silent while he was still alive? These questions continued fueling the debate. For many observers, the situation highlighted something that often happens after the death of powerful individuals. When someone influential is no longer alive, some people may feel more comfortable sharing stories they were previously afraid to reveal because of possible legal challenges, public criticism, or personal consequences. However, this also creates a complicated situation because the person at the center of the claims is no longer able to respond, explain their side, or defend themselves. This makes it even more important to separate verified facts from unproven accusations. That is what made the controversy surrounding Lindsey Graham so complex. It was not simply about one woman's claims. It was about years of rumors, political battles, public expectations, and the struggle to separate confirmed facts from unverified stories. In the end, the questions surrounding Graham's private life became another chapter in the complicated legacy of a man who spent decades in the public eye. Aside from the allegation levied against him after his demise, could the woman be exploring the reality that she is late to accuse him? Are accusations against political figures alien to this time? And what makes the allegation against him so complicated? Let's uncover the astonishing details. The long history of political rumors. The intense attention surrounding Lindsey Graham's private life did not suddenly appear after his passing. In reality, questions and speculation about the personal lives of powerful figures have followed American politics for generations. Throughout history, many politicians have found themselves under public scrutiny, with people looking beyond their speeches, policies, and public achievements to examine the parts of their lives that remained away from the spotlight. These discussions often reveal a long-standing curiosity about the private worlds of those who hold positions of influence and power. One of the most frequently discussed examples is former President James Buchanan, the only U.S. president who never married. For decades, historians and the public have debated aspects of his personal life, with some suggesting that his lifelong bachelorhood raised questions about his identity. Similar speculations surrounded other influential figures, including longtime FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, whose private life became the subject of rumors that continued for years, despite a lack of clear evidence. These examples show that public fascination with the private lives of leaders is not a modern phenomenon. When someone holds great power, people often become interested not only in their decisions and policies, but also in the personal stories behind the public image. Sometimes those questions come from genuine curiosity, while other times they are connected to political disagreements or cultural debates. However, the rise of the internet has completely changed how these conversations unfold. In the past, rumors might have taken years to spread through newspapers, political circles, or private conversations. Today, social media can turn an unverified claim into a worldwide discussion within minutes. A single post can reach millions of people before anyone has a chance to examine whether the information is accurate. That speed creates a serious challenge, separating truth from speculation. Some allegations eventually become supported by evidence, while others remain nothing more than rumors that continue because they are repeated so often. This was exactly what made the conversation surrounding Lindsey Graham so complicated. For some critics, the claims represented a moment when long-standing questions were finally being discussed openly. They saw it as an opportunity to examine whether powerful people had hidden aspects of their lives. But for others, the situation raised concerns about fairness and responsibility. They argued that accusations made after someone's death deserve careful examination because the person at the center of the claims is no longer alive to respond, explain, or defend themselves. In the end, Graham's controversy became part of a much larger debate that has followed public figures for centuries. The constant struggle between uncovering the truth and respecting the responsibility that comes with making serious accusations. Graham is only one of the political figures to be accused after their demise. But what type of childhood shaped his life? Could the truth about him be traced back to his childhood background? And what hidden details about his personality could his early life reveal? Let's find out. The personal tragedies of Lindsey Graham. Long before Lindsey Graham became one of the most recognizable faces in Washington, he was simply a young boy growing up in the small town of Central South Carolina, inside a hard-working family trying to build a life together. Born on July 9, 1955, Graham grew up around the family business, where his parents, Millie and Florence Graham, operated a restaurant, bar, pool hall, and liquor store. It was a modest upbringing that taught him the value of hard work, responsibility, and perseverance from an early age. Graham's early life was far removed from the world of power and politics he would later enter. He grew up in a working-class family and became the first person in his household to attend college, a milestone that showed his determination to build a better future. However, just as he was beginning to discover his path and create opportunities for himself, life brought a devastating challenge. The loss and hardship he experienced during those early years would shape his character, strengthen his sense of responsibility, and influence the person he eventually became. When Graham was only 20 years old, he experienced the devastating loss of his mother, who died after battling Hodgkin's lymphoma. The pain of that loss was still fresh when, just 15 months later, his father also passed away from a heart attack. In a short period of time, Graham went from being a young man focused on his own future to someone carrying a responsibility far beyond his years. With both parents gone, Graham became the person his younger sister Darlene depended on. She was only 13 years old when they were left without their parents, and Graham stepped into a role that was much bigger than that of an ordinary sibling. Years later, Darlene described him as someone who became like a brother, father, and mother, all at once. Someone who sacrificed his own comfort to make sure she had support and guidance. Those difficult years left a lasting mark on Graham's personality. The experience forced him to grow up quickly, developing the discipline, determination, and sense of duty that would later become central themes in his public career. After overcoming those challenges, Graham continued his education at the University of South Carolina, where he earned a degree in psychology before pursuing a law degree. But his journey was far from ordinary. Instead of choosing a simple legal path, Graham entered public service, beginning a career that would eventually take him from the military courtroom to the halls of Congress and place him at the heart of American politics. Graham did not allow the challenges he faced as a child to stop him from excelling in life. But what sacrifices did he make along the way? And what level of success did he eventually achieve? Now, let's unravel the journey that built Lindsey Graham's public image. The rising of a political force. After completing law school, Lindsey Graham chose a path that would define much of his future. Rather than immediately pursuing a conventional legal career, he joined the United States Air Force as a Judge Advocate General Officer, beginning a new chapter focused on military service and national duty. His time in uniform became a major part of his identity, shaping his views on leadership, defense, and America's role on the global stage. The experiences he gained in the military would later influence his approach to politics, foreign policy, and the decisions he made in Washington. Graham's military journey began when he joined the United States Air Force as a defense attorney, where he represented service members dealing with serious legal matters. Through hard work, discipline, and a strong understanding of military law, he quickly earned greater responsibilities. His career eventually took him overseas, where he served as the Air Force's chief prosecutor in Europe. During that time, Graham handled challenging cases, worked within the military justice system, and developed the legal experience and leadership skills that would later influence his approach to politics and public service. His work even brought him national attention when he appeared on the television program 60 Minutes while defending an Air Force pilot accused in a case involving illegal substances. The appearance highlighted concerns about problems within the military's substance testing procedures and showed Graham as someone willing to challenge issues within the system when he believed something was wrong. After leaving active duty, Graham did not completely walk away from military service. He continued serving in the Air Force Reserve and steadily advanced, eventually reaching the rank of colonel. His commitment to the military remained a major part of his public identity. He later returned to active duty assignments, including work in Iraq and Afghanistan, where he focused on legal issues connected to military operations, detainee matters, and the challenges faced by American forces overseas. That military background became a powerful foundation for Graham's political career. As he entered public office, he built a reputation as one of Washington's strongest supporters of a forceful American foreign policy. He frequently argued that the United States needed to maintain a strong military presence around the world and take an active role in international conflicts. Before becoming a senator, Graham first served in the U.S. House of Representatives, representing South Carolina. Then, in 2002, he won a seat in the Senate, beginning a new phase of his career. Over the years, the former military lawyer transformed from a relatively unknown state politician into a nationally recognized Republican figure, becoming a regular presence in debates over war, diplomacy, and America's place on the world stage. Graham built a remarkable career that was extraordinary enough to make him a powerful politician. But what made him more widely known? What were the issues he advocated for in politics? Was he able to defend them until the very end? Or did he make a turn that surprised many? Let's uncover the details. The stunning political transformation. Lindsey Graham's political journey became one of the most surprising transformations in recent Republican history. For much of his career, Graham built a reputation as a traditional conservative who valued strong national defense, political experience, and long-standing relationships across party lines. But his relationship with Donald Trump eventually became one of the biggest turning points of his public life. During the 2016 presidential campaign, Graham was one of Trump's loudest Republican critics. He did not hide his concerns about the businessman-turned-politician and openly questioned whether Trump had the temperament and character needed to become president. Graham warned voters about Trump's approach to politics and even described him in harsh terms, arguing that he did not represent the values of the Republican Party he knew. At that time, Graham was closely connected to Senator John McCain, another Republican who frequently challenged Trump's style and political methods. The two had built a strong friendship over many years, especially through their shared interest in foreign policy and national security. Along with Democratic Senator Joe Lieberman, Graham and McCain became known as the Three Amigos, a nickname that came from their frequent international trips and cooperation on global issues. However, everything changed after Trump won the White House. In a move that surprised many observers, Graham gradually moved from being one of Trump's critics to becoming one of his strongest supporters in the Senate. Their relationship grew closer, with Graham regularly communicating with the president, offering political advice, and becoming a familiar presence around Trump. Graham became one of Donald Trump's strongest defenders during the president's impeachment battles, regularly appearing on television and speaking in the Senate to challenge the accusations. He also played a key role in advancing the administration's agenda and built a close alliance with Trump, marking a dramatic shift from his earlier criticism. To Graham's defenders, the change represented political maturity and a willingness to work with a president despite past disagreements. They argued that he was following the responsibility of serving his country and helping where he believed he could make a difference. But to his critics, the transformation looked very different. They saw it as a dramatic reversal, questioning how someone who once warned Americans about Trump could later become one of his closest allies. That shift became one of the most defining chapters of Lindsey Graham's career, shaping both his influence in Washington and the complicated way many people would remember his legacy after his death.
Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina has died. His office released a statement just now that reads, U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham passed away from a brief and sudden illness.
Graham moved from being one of Trump's critics to becoming his close ally. But was this change of stance the only one he was known for in politics? Or was he known for changing his opinions on important matters? If so, what other issues did he change his stance on? And what does that reveal about his reputation? Let's uncover the astonishing details. The political record that causes debate. For many years, Lindsey Graham was known as a politician who strongly supported traditional conservative views on marriage and social issues. Throughout his career, he took positions that placed him firmly on the conservative side of debates involving LGBTQ-related policies. In 1996, he supported the Defense of Marriage Act, a law that defined marriage at the federal level as a union between one man and one woman. Years later, he also supported efforts to maintain that traditional definition of marriage, and in 2022, voted against the Respect for Marriage Act, which provided federal protections for same-sex marriages.
I believe that the Supreme Court case that was decided allowing same-sex marriage to be the law of the land is still the law. I respect the decision while I disagree with the legal analysis.
Those political decisions became an important part of the wider conversation surrounding rumors and speculation about his private life. For critics, the discussion centered on what they viewed as a possible contradiction between the positions Graham publicly defended and the personal claims that some people later made about him. They argued that if such allegations were ever proven true, it would raise questions about whether his public actions matched his private beliefs. However, others strongly disagreed with that perspective, arguing that a person's private life should not automatically overshadow their entire career or erase years of public service. They pointed out that individuals are often complex, with personal beliefs, experiences, and decisions that cannot always be easily explained. They also emphasized that unverified claims should not be accepted as truth, simply because they support a particular viewpoint or storyline. For them, fairness requires evidence, balance, and careful consideration before reaching conclusions. The debate surrounding Graham became part of a much larger discussion that has followed powerful figures for generations. Throughout history, politicians and public leaders have often faced questions about their private choices, relationships, and personal lives, especially when those details appear to conflict with the values or positions they present to the public. These situations continue to raise difficult questions about privacy, accountability, and the expectations placed on those who hold influence and power. This created a difficult question with no simple answer. Where should society draw the line between personal privacy and public accountability? Should elected officials be judged only by the laws they support and the decisions they make in office? Or should their private lives also become part of the public discussion when there appears to be a conflict? Ultimately, the controversy surrounding Lindsey Graham expanded beyond one individual. It became a larger debate about power, identity, reputation, and the expectations placed on public figures. It forced people to consider whether leaders should be remembered only for their actions in office, or also for the personal stories and unanswered questions that follow them away from the spotlight. It is established that Graham was known for changing his stance on political debates over time. But could this indicate that the rumors that emerged after his death might be true because he was known for shifting positions? Or should there be a proper way of verifying rumors and accusations before accepting them? Let's uncover the details. The debate over legacy. One of the biggest questions that emerged after Lindsey Graham's death was not only about whether the rumors surrounding him were true or false. The deeper question was whether those rumors should even become part of the conversation after someone had passed away. It became a debate about how society should examine the lives of powerful people and what parts of their stories deserve attention once they are no longer here to respond. Some people argued that individuals who spend decades creating policies, shaping government decisions, and influencing millions of lives should have their entire legacy examined. From their perspective, a public figure's private actions and public positions are sometimes connected, especially when critics believe there is a possible conflict between what someone promotes publicly and how they may have lived privately. For them, accountability requires looking at the complete picture. Others viewed the situation differently, arguing that accusations without clear evidence should always be approached with caution, especially when the person at the center of them has passed away. They believed that without the opportunity to respond, explain the circumstances, or defend themselves, individuals can easily be judged through incomplete information. For them, spreading unverified claims risks creating a distorted version of someone's life and legacy. They stressed the importance of separating confirmed facts from speculation before forming conclusions about any public figure. This disagreement revealed a complicated truth about public figures. They are often remembered through multiple and sometimes conflicting versions of who they were. One version of Lindsey Graham is the longtime senator who spent more than 30 years in public service. He was a former military lawyer, a major voice on foreign policy, a key Republican figure in Washington, and someone who played an important role in national political debates. Supporters point to his military background, his years in Congress, and his influence on issues affecting the United States and the world. But another version exists in the public conversation. This is the image of a politician surrounded by years of speculation, criticism, and unanswered questions about his personal life. For some, those questions became an important part of understanding his overall legacy. For others, they represented the danger of allowing rumors to overshadow decades of public work. Ultimately, the challenge for history is not always choosing one version over another. It is learning how to examine a person's entire story, including their achievements, controversies, decisions, and the questions that remain unanswered. For Lindsey Graham, his legacy will likely continue to be debated through both the impact he made in politics and the unresolved conversations that followed him until the end of his life. Beyond the rumors and controversies affecting how people view Graham after his demise, will these claims affect his legacy? Or, no matter what is said after his death, will his contributions and political career continue to define how future generations remember him? Now, let's explore a legacy caught between power and controversy. The final chapter of Lindsey Graham's life. By the time Lindsey Graham's life came to an end, he had become one of the most recognizable and debated figures in American politics. His journey took him from a small town in South Carolina, center of national power, where his decisions, opinions, and alliances placed him at the heart of some of the biggest political battles in the country. His story was built on many different chapters. He experienced deep personal loss as a young man, served in the United States Air Force, worked as a lawyer, entered Congress, and eventually became one of Washington's most influential voices on national security and foreign policy. To his supporters, Graham represented experience, dedication, and a willingness to stand firmly behind the issues he believed were important for America's future. Many supporters respected Graham for his military service, his experience in foreign policy, and his ability to build connections across Washington's often divided political landscape. His close relationship with Donald Trump became one of the most defining parts of his later career, increasing his influence within the Republican Party. As Trump faced major political challenges, Graham emerged as one of his most loyal defenders and a prominent voice supporting the president's agenda. However, Graham's career was never without controversy. Critics questioned his political transformation from a vocal Trump critic during the 2016 election to one of Trump's closest allies after he entered the White House. They also challenged his positions on LGBTQ issues and pointed to moments where his public statements appeared different from his later actions. To his opponents, these moments created questions about his principles and political identity. After his death, those debates became even more complicated as old rumors, new allegations, and unanswered questions surrounding his private life returned to public attention. For some, these discussions represented an attempt to examine the complete story of a powerful figure whose decisions affected millions of people. For others, they raised concerns about judging someone through claims that were never fully proven, especially when that person could no longer respond. Ultimately, Lindsey Graham's legacy became far more complex than a single controversy or political disagreement. His story reflected ambition, loyalty, influence, reputation, and the difficult reality of being a public figure. It showed how those who live in the spotlight are often remembered through both their achievements and the controversies that surround them. Some will remember him as a senator who shaped American foreign policy, defended his beliefs, and built a decades-long career in Washington. Others will remember the controversies, disagreements, and unanswered questions that followed him throughout his public life. But perhaps the most enduring part of Graham's story is the wider debate his passing created about truth, privacy, accountability, and the difficult question of how history ultimately remembers and judges those who have held great power and influence. Because when a powerful figure leaves this world, their story does not always come to an end. Sometimes, that is when the most difficult conversations truly begin. So, what do you think about the allegations against Graham? Will they affect how people view him after his death? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.